Hi everyone, welcome to a new chapter, Improvement in Food Resources. This is the last chapter from the Class 9 CBSE Biology syllabus. In this chapter, we're going to learn about how to improve the food resources. The food resources or the resources which provide us with the food are mainly or primarily of the two types. The first is the agricultural based, that is the crops or the plants or the trees, and second is the livestock, that is animal husbandry, which includes the cows, the goats, the sheep, the chickens, which provide us with milk-based products, fishes, chicken, mutton, and all the proteinaceous food. So let's start, or let's understand exactly how we are going to bring about, or how this is going to deal with the improvement in the resources. When we talk about the improvement in the food resources, the first thing that we have to do is improvement of the crops. Along with the improvement of the crops, we have to also think of the crop protection, how to protect the crops from the diseases, the pests, and also the adverse environmental conditions, and also to manage the crop and initiate or improve the crop production. So these three ways we are going to improvement, or we are going to think of improvement in the sector of the crops. That is, protect the crops, manage the crops, and improve in the production of the crops. The same will be done for animal husbandry, that how we'll be going about in the animal husbandry section, where we'll be dealing about how to protect it or how to increase the yield, and what are the ways and means in order we can increase the resources or the yield of the resources. So the first question that comes to our mind, that we are all thinking for increasing in the yield of the food or for improvement of the resources which provide us with food, but why is food that much important that it needs to be continuously under a question mark? Because food is that only thing that provide us, all human beings or all living beings, with energy. Food supplies us with proteins, vitamins, carbohydrates, fats, and minerals, which is very much required for the growth and development of the body. Both plants and animals are also major sources of food for our human beings, and the food that we have is procured either from the agricultural field or through animal husbandry. So we'll pay much stress towards agricultural crops as well as animal husbandry. Now let's see that why is this food so improvement of the food resources is so very necessary. Because it provides the food for the ever-growing population. For the population or for the living beings or the human beings in a country, it is the only source which provides with energy. It improves quality, so we must improve the quality and the nutritional quality of the food for a healthier living, and also increase the yielding capacity of the crops. To ensure insect and disease-free crops for enhanced food quality, because insects and pests always reduces or it affects the quality of the food and also the yield of a particular crop. And finally, they reduce the cost of production for make the food available to all sections of the society. So in order for this improvement, some efforts was done to meet this ever increasing food demand. So what were the efforts, or what were the efforts that were taken? Before that, when we talk about the efforts that were taken, we'll talk about the challenges that is there towards this improvement of the food. Now, what are the challenges? The first challenge for our country, India, is it is a heavily populated country and the population is ever increasing. So India will require more than 250 million of food grains every year. So this In order to achieve this, farming on more land is a must. But India is already intensively cultivated, so there is hardly any land left to increase the cultivation or increase the area under cultivation. So it is necessary to increase the production efficiency. If there is no land possible, we have to increase the food or the production of the crop, because the land or the natural resource is limited. So we have to increase for the crop production in order to meet the increasing food demand. So solution can be increased production efficiency and the livestock efficiency with increased nutritional quality. Now, in order to meet this ever increasing population of our country, we need to go with a production efficiency, which is a must in order to feed all this population of India. So in order to meet this increasing demand, in the year 1960s, there were two revolutions which took place and which brought about actually a huge change in the sector for agriculture as well as animal husbandry in India. For agriculture sector, it is named as Green Revolution as it involves crops, and it led to quite a considerable amount of increase in the crop yield. And simultaneously, another revolution also took place in Anand, Gujarat, where it is known as the White Revolution, and this revolution has led to better and more efficient use as well as availability of the milk and the milk products. So this is Dr. Verghese Kurien who actually initiated the White Revolution and made it possible for milk and milk products to be met or to be distributed throughout the country from the farmers to the main store without the intermediate persons. And for the Green Revolution, the credit goes to Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, who actually initiated the Green Revolution in order to bring about the changes in the agricultural sector. So these two persons actually brought about a lot of change in our food resources. We'll be always indebted to these two persons who had actually given India or brought about a huge food security for the Indian population. Now, but there is always a challenge towards that effort that was made. Now, we know that the land which we are using for agricultural purpose is constant, or I would say that it is still decreasing. So we must always keep it in mind that this is a natural resource which can anytime get exhausted. And if such a thing happens, we will not be able to have any grains. So in order so that we don't lose this natural resource, we always have to maintain a balance between the food production as well as the natural resources, because natural resources is free, but it is not unlimited to us. So we have to use it very consciously. So how can the crop production of both the crops as well as the livestock, so how can we increase? Then the question arises, then how can we increase? Because I told you that we cannot increase the production or we cannot increase the area of the land. So let's see that how can we increase the production of the crops as well as the livestock. Now, before we talk of the increasing of the production of crops, we need to understand the crops of what is it, what is the type, how do they grow, when do they grow, what is favorable for them. That is all have to kept in mind, because they also require some conditions, some temperatures, some amount of rainfall for their proper growing and proper yield. So what it was done, based on the rainfall and temperature, the crops, the love for the rainfall and temperature, crops was divided into two types. Now these crops was named according to their love of rainfall and temperature. The crops which loved the summer months were known as Kharif crops. They are also known as summer crops. These Kharif crops are also called summer crops. And the crops which loved winter, that is the temperature is less temperature, and we can understand when it is winter, the rainfall is also less. So less temperature with less rainfall, they were known as Rabi crops or the winter crops. So Kharif crops loves more amount of rain and more amount of temperature. So they are called summer crops, and Rabi crops loves less rain and less temperature. So it is Rabi crops. Now let's understand the difference between the Kharif and the Rabi crops, because 90% of the crops get divided into under these two heads. Basically, this is the cropping pattern or the cropping seasons which is followed in India based on the temperature as well as the rainfall. On the onset of summer season, that is May and June. On the onset of the summer season, it is sown May and June, whereas it is sown in October and November. These crops are harvested during September, October, and these crops are harvested during March, April. So once these get harvested, these are sown. Now these get harvested, these are sown. So Kharif starts their cycle in May to June and ends their cycle by October. So June to October. And Rabi starts just the opposite, starts their cycle in November and ends the cycle in April. They are summer crops, so they adequate rainfall and irrigation. I told you they love rainfall, and these don't require that much amount of water for its growth. Plant always require water for its growth, but a limited quantity of water is enough for their growth. Kharif crops require hot weather with plenty of rainfall, and this require a cool weather. I told you based on what climate they like, they have been divided, and examples are maize, jowar, rice. Rice is a very good example of the Kharif crop. Even groundnut, cotton, soybean, mango, etc. We all know that in the summer months we get the tasty and the delicious mangoes. And the Rabi crops examples are wheat, all types of pulses. 90% of the pulses, they are winter loving crops, so they all are grown during the winter. Mustard, banana, berries, etc. Here see paddy, maize, bajra, jowar are example of Kharif crops, whereas wheat, barley, peas and gram are examples of the Rabi crop. So these are the two main types of crops based on their love for temperature, rainfall and the cropping pattern. They have been named so. Now India has registered a quadruple increase in the food grain production from the success of Green Revolution. So I told you that due to the help of Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, we have actually increased in the food grain production. And this has led to the food grain production in spite of the meager increase in cultivable land. If we think that the practice involved in farming, we can see that we can divide it into 3 stages. Now, how did this much increase in the food production came? This was only because of the management, the cultural practices that was followed. Now, how have they done it, or how it has been discussed, or we will teach or we will learn this in 3 different major heads. The first is crop variety improvement, second is crop production improvement, and third is crop protection management. So first is crop variety improvement. So variety improvement, with the name or the heading we can understand it is the choice of the seeds that is used for growing of the crops. It is the crop production improvement is the proper care and maintenance. It is the maintenance of the crop, and protection management is the protection of the harvested crops. So let's understand the crop variety improvement. Crop variety improvement, it helps us to find out a variety that gives us increasing yield. Now, when we are talking of an increasing yield for a particular variety, so we must look or how is it found out. Now, how we'll tell that, okay, a particular variety or a particular seed gives us good yield? Before doing that, we must know that this particular seed gives a good yield and selected by breeding. And this is done by the methods of breeding. How to select a particular seed which is good in yield. Now, this is done by the methods of breeding. Now, when we talk about the methods of breeding, so they follow different methods of breeding, and this is done in order for disease resistance. Now, when we talk of this breeding, we'll tell that it has been done for disease resistance, that is in order to reduce the incidence of the disease, the pests, so that the crop stays healthy. Response to fertilizers. The crop should have a healthy crop, should grow beautifully when it gets fertilizers or the manures which is supplied to it for a proper growth and also a proper yield. Production quality and high yields. Not even high yield, and also the quality. What is the quality of the product that you are getting? May it be a maize, may it be wheat, may it be rice or any other grains or cereals or pulses. The quality should be good enough, because we human beings also look for the quality. We are also talking about nutritional quality with additive values, which is very much important with this increasing population. So we must have a seed which is able to resist the diseases, responds very properly or promptly to impose of fertilizers, have a proper quality of the grain, and also high yield. So we should be breeding for all these purposes in order to get proper seeds which can lead us to increase food production. Now, how we can improve or how we can bring about all this that we have talked, that is how we can make a seed disease resistance, or how we can increase the quality of the crop, or how we can increase the quality of the produce, how we can increase the yield. Now, this all is done through the process of, first is hybridization, and the second is genetically modified crops. Now, what is hybridization? Hybrid. When we talk of the word hybridization, we intend that it mixes. So we talk of two plants or two things which actually mixes with each other. So it mixes and forms a hybrid. It forms another thing. So here you see this is a red colored tulip and this is a yellow colored tulip. Now when this red and yellow colored tulip is being crossed, what happens, that is when I'm telling of crossing, what do I exactly mean by that? Crossing is actually taking the pollen of one flower and putting into the female or the gynoecium or the ovary of the other flower, or dusting it onto the style of the other flower. So it gives rise to a new type of plant, because the male was from this red tulip, or the female was from the red tulip and the male was from the yellow tulip. Now both are different. We are trying to mix these two different and give it another type. So this becomes like this, or it can become like this. That is, it can have red striations into it, or it can completely change the color and become orange in color. So this is that hybridization brings about. It brings about a new type. That new type will be looking for a better one than both of them. So if supposedly this plant we know is disease resistant for a particular disease, and we know this plant gives very much higher yield. So if we cross these two, finally we get whatever this one. This might be a very high yielding, which is a particular disease resistant. So both of them we combine together and we get in one plant. So in one plant, we can get a higher yield also and disease resistance also. So ultimately it gives us more yield because the crop remains healthy. So this is about hybridization. So the hybridization can be intervarietal, that is between two different varieties. It can be interspecific, between two different species of the same genus, or intergeneric, that is between two different genera altogether. So these three types of hybridization being carried out in order to bring about the increase or to do about the desired requirement for the food resources or the yield. Genetically modified crops, it is done by introducing a gene that would provide a desired character into the crop which needs to be improved. Now we want a particular crop to improve, and that particular improvement or the quality or the trait which we want to improve has a particular gene for its action. Now that particular gene can be taken from some other plant or some other animals or some other microorganism and can be inserted into that crop DNA, so that that particular crop gets that immunity or gets that particular variety which we are asking or we are desiring for. So then what can happen, that the crop that comes out has our desired characteristics which we were asking for, along with the improved yield. So these are the two main techniques with which we can bring about high yield in crops. Now, what is the need for variety improvement? We have also talked that we need to improve the varieties. Now, why do we need to increase the variety? That is to increase the yield, to improve the quality of the crop or the food product that is being produced, to provide abiotic and biotic resistance. Now, biotic and abiotic resistance. Biotic means those are living and abiotic means those are non-living. Living means biotic. When we talk of biotic resistance, it includes the insects, pests, which are living microorganisms which cause diseases or which cause harm to the crops. They are called biotic. And abiotic resistance are those like that of salinity, then water scarcity and excessive of temperature, then soil infertility. These are all abiotic resistances which a crop can face when it's growing. It might not have the water which they have is totally brackish in nature, or the soil quality is not that good. So these are all abiotic conditions, or the temperature where the crop has been growing is excessively high or excessively low, which is difficult for the crop to bear. So these are all these types which resist. The crop must be able to resist so that the crop can stand and finally can give a good yield. Develop early maturing varieties. Adaptability to the environmental conditions. Due to this global warming, there is a huge difference in the weather conditions. It might rain anytime. Initially, anytime the temperature increases or the temperature drops. So there is different types of weather conditions which are totally unpredictable. So that the crop should be able to withstand those different weather conditions while growing in a particular place, and desirable agronomic characteristics. It depends on what type of the plant or what exactly the food product that we are getting from the plant. Supposedly, sometimes we want that the plant should not grow very tall. That is an agronomic characteristic, because if the plant grows tall, it reduces or it loses a lot of energy for its vegetative growth rather than the yield. We also want it to be a short duration. We want it to be photo insensitive. Those are some agronomic characters. Or we want less amount of leaves, or small leaves or bigger leaves, based on according to the requirements of the breeder or the plants or the crop or the food, we should be designing our crop accordingly. So all these needs are for the variety improvement. So this is all required, which must be induced into a variety in order to improve them. So these are the requirements for the crop or a particular variety which it needs to acquire in order to give a proper yield and to sustain the livestock. So this brings us to the end of this video. In my next video, I'll be talking about the management practices for crop production, crop protection, and also for animal husbandry, because this will be dealing it separately and in detail, as I want in detail to explain the chapter. So I have divided it into multiple videos so that it doesn't become stressful for us in order to watch the video for a long time. So till then, thank you, take care, stay safe, stay at home. And if you have liked my video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.